Matt, do people know your situation, the things you put me through, and everybody who watches your stream? Do they know your schedule? You're insane. We live in the same time zone.
Yeah,
we both live on the West Coast. We're in the.
I go to bed really late because I work really late. That's not a problem.
For people who don't know, like maybe who you don't watch Matt's stream on the regular, Matimio has this crazy night owl schedule. So for us to record a podcast,
I stream from 6 o'clock my time to like 1 a.m. and then I hang out and I do some things after, and then it gets late.
How did this start? You told me once.
It's your fault.
Yeah, you blamed it on me, and I didn't fully understand the logic.
So a long time ago, when we played Battlefield 4 together, many moons ago, I started streaming because I've been streaming for over 9 years now, and Squad Up was from like 3 to 5. And so after that, I would have like some dinner, and then I would start my live stream. So and then I just kept my schedule from there on out for all eternity. I just never changed. I just literally just never changed it, even though 10 years have gone by.
And eventually, so you were trying to sleep normal hours, but eventually you're like, oh, it's just easier if I just get up at the end
later
of the day.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, so I just swapped it around.
Yeah, so you're like fully nocturnal now, and I love that was your logic as opposed to like on Squad Up Day, maybe just have a slightly different stream schedule or stream earlier. You're like, no, I'll just go from being a daytime person to a night owl for the rest of my life.
Yeah, I've thought about changing it up a little bit.
Yeah, so we record our podcast in a weird Venn diagram of when we're both awake, which is weird hours, and I had to change up my schedule, and so now we're recording the podcast at 5 a.m. So if my voice sounds a little groggy,
I suggested 6 and 7.
You did.
I would have.
I couldn't do those because I got to take my kids to school at a certain point. Yeah. So yeah. Very early in the morning, we got some early morning news and discussion for you guys today. A lot of interesting stuff happened last week. I wouldn't say it's like big game news, there isn't like a new Call of Duty dropping or anything, but I guess the biggest title that launched last week is one that I didn't play, but I know you played it because you're a fantasy nerd, is Dragon Age Veilguard. Yeah. What do you think?
It's okay. It's an okay game.
It's so
I've
controversial.
Enjoyed my time with it. Oh yeah, it's incredibly controversial because the internet always likes to make controversies of everything these days.
I didn't even know about it until I saw the drama. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah. So it is controversial, but from a game standpoint and a Dragon Age fan, I'm a little let down because the writing and the characters are a little weak. And by a little weak, I mean pretty weak.
Yeah.
It really dumbs it down. Like there's a scene where you're in a boat and you're going to a dock, and one of the characters is like, oh, the dock that normally has so many people around, there's no one. Something must be wrong. And I'm like,
that's painful.
He's like, oh no. There's another scene. This is a little spoilery, but like it must be real. It's not really. You meet this assassin guild, right? And you meet the head crow, and you're like, I want to meet this person who will join our team and fight the good fight. And she's like, oh, he's been dead for a year, and I've told no one in my family until now. I'm going to reveal to you that he's actually alive. And I'm like, well, you didn't tell any of your family, but we just met for 30 seconds and you're telling me this?
I have a feeling about you.
Mm-hmm. You're the hero of this story. So the story is a little, I actually like the story, and where it's like, I because I'm a fantasy nerd, right? I see dragons and my brain just starts firing, endorphins, right? So there are dragons in Dragon Age, and I like the world. It's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. It runs flawlessly. EA's actually doing some cool things, like not having it with piracy like de novo. It is on Steam and all platforms. There's no microtransactions. There's going to be like nothing that no battle passes.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. They're actually, not going full crazy with it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just delivering a game full package there you go. And they've announced that they're not doing DLC either because they're moving on over to Mass Effect. So, decent stuff there. But unfortunately, the stories and the writing is a little lacking.
That's unfortunate in a fantasy game where that is probably the most important element, where you're like, yeah, I'm not really here
and
for
the past games were really good with it too.
Oh yeah, gotcha. I did read some reviews and I saw pretty much similar sentiment from a lot of players, which was just like, stop telling me how to feel and like experience the game. Let me just do it. But they're just saying like every time I do something, they're like, hey, did you see that thing over there? Did you notice the thing? Wow, wasn't that crazy?
Wasn't that crazy? Now we should talk about how it kind of feels.
Yeah. And
what does this mean?
Like, can you stop treating me like I'm an idiot and just let me explore the universe and whatnot? But
it almost does feel like it was dumbed down to the point where it's because it's like I think it's an M-rated game, I think.
Yeah.
But it feels dumbed down so that children can like enjoy it. Not like babies and, toddlers, but younger teenagers could enjoy and experience it and understand what's happening.
Now the news was that it's EA's biggest or best selling single player release on Steam thus far, beating out like some of the Jedi Fallen Order games and stuff.
Interesting. It just goes to show how much people have been wanting a big RPG. They've been wanting a Dragon Age game forever, right? I think it's the name itself is selling the game really well. How are the stats on it? Steam charts.
So the Steam reviews are okay. I think it's...
Well, it had an 89,000 peak. 24-hour peak was 65,000 concurrent. Decent.
Yeah.
It's no Baldur's Gate that had like 800,000, but Baldur's Gate was... And then I was going to come to that. The comparison to Baldur's Gate in terms of story and writing is just night and day difference, right?
Yeah.
Like it feels so much more organic and people talk like humans in Baldur's Gate. And then over in here, it's very like ham-fisted and just really like awkward. I'm like, this is not how someone would talk to each other. What are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the fantasy genre in real life where you have these incredibly well-written, rich, detailed stories, and then you have the like campy, trashy fantasy on the side, and there's tons of both of it, and I guess you just get the same in the video game world.
I don't want to dunk on it entirely because the combat's actually really engaging. I'm playing as a warrior kind of paladin vibe where I've got a shield and I can parry. And if I parry and I've got a build right now, it gives me better crit. My sword goes on fire and I'm doing more damage. You can prime a target and then detonate that target to do AoE damage and hit everything else. So there's a lot of really tight mechanics with the combat, which makes it engaging. And that's actually been sort of the driving force for me is exploring the worlds because they're gorgeous and just going from boss battle to boss battle or engagement. And it's been fun exploring the world.
That's good. Yeah. We should address that it was review. It's another one of those games that's just gotten review bombed. It was interesting this time because there's a huge discrepancy between the websites like Metacritic's, where Metacritic, it got blasted into oblivion. I don't know what the percentage was. And then on Steam, it wasn't like very positive. It was like mostly positive or something like that.
Which I think is 70% positive.
Okay. Yeah. So like the difference is on Steam, you can't review unless you have the game. And on Metacritic, you can review if you don't have the game, which seems like a little bit of a flaw.
Two things, though. One, if you increase the time of how long someone spent in the game to like 6 hours, it goes to very positive. So it looks like the people that are playing a lot are enjoying it. So that's one thing. Yeah. And then also, there are some people, I literally copied and pasted a review or screenshotted it that was 0.1 hours.
Nice.
So 6 minutes. And it was like, it went through all the bad things that the game had. And I'm like, in 6 minutes you experienced this? And there was a bunch of those at the very launch of the game. So I'm like, why did you even buy?
There's a huge amount of bandwagoning with it.
What are you doing?
Yeah. It sucks because you want an accurate review as a consumer to know what you're going to get. And unfortunately, the game just got tied up in politics, identity politics and all that stuff, because there's a bunch of that going on in the game. And so if you have it in your game, you're basically going to get review bombed.
At this point, it feels like it's inevitable.
Yeah. So that was a big part of, or I don't even know if it was a big part, but according to the internet, it seems to be a big part of the game. Is identity politics. And I was like, okay, I don't know, but it's enough to generate Metacritic review bombs across the board. But who knows? Maybe it got the game. They always say like bad press is good press or whatever, you know? So it's like, I didn't even have Veilguard on my radar.
Concord had a lot of bad press.
Well, let's be honest, you wouldn't know what Concord was unless it got like, well, maybe you would, but I wouldn't know what it was unless it got all that bad press, right?
Yeah, true. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But again, I didn't play the game, so it didn't work out for Concord.
You weren't alone.
Have you seen Concord's amazing... I know I've talked about this maybe before, but there's all the concept art for Concord is coming out because...
Oh, no.
They wanted that game to be like a Star Wars equivalent, like a mega IP. It was being propped up to become something to compete with the biggest IPs ever. And the concept art is gorgeous. There's like giant spaceships and space stations and huge cyberpunk cities, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what game is this? It looks amazing.
Yeah, it's Concord, the one game that didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, because they hired some of the best concept artists in the industry.
They had mega stars from Destiny and like the entire industry, just like huge cast of like really prolific developers. Yeah,
so I guess because the project exploded, the guys are like, well, I made all this incredible stuff and we worked hard and none of it was in the game, nor is it getting shown. So here it is. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, dang, what game? I want to play this game. This game looks sick, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, too bad. They had a good idea at some point. Who knows what happened to that idea, but...
And then it got condensed down into a hero shooter that did nothing new.
Yeah. Well, speaking of studios dropping the ball or making bad decisions, this isn't exactly a video game story, but it's very adjacent. And one that's kind of near and dear to me is, you know, the tradable card game Magic the Gathering?
Yes.
Does it develop
Magic the Gathering? What is this Magic the Gathering?
Yes, I think most people know what it is. Yeah,
who played before school began? They were the nerds who and they would play before like the bell rang.
That was me sometimes for sure. Yeah. I got into it in 4th grade, and I was into it pretty much all throughout high school until I had to, do things like...
I was so unconfident with myself. I wanted to like participate, but I didn't want to look like a nerd, so I just didn't talk to them. Yeah, that's how lame I was, and I still didn't have friends.
You missed out on both sides. You're like, I don't want to be too nerdy, but also I'm not too cool, so I'll just exist in this middle ground, in no man's land
where no one likes me.
I'm not committing.
Yeah,
I'm not full jock. Great. I'm not full nerd. I'm just in the middle ground. Baby.
I'm just a loser.
That's really funny. I got back into Magic the Gathering in college and discovered like draft tournaments, which were super fun. Where instead of, because you could spend hundreds of dollars on building a cool deck and then going to a tournament and like everybody kind of knows the deck strategies because they're super popular and you're just trying to like craft that strategy. But a draft tournament is you go in, you pay a little bit of money, maybe $20, whatever it was. And then they would hand out a booster pack to you. And everybody would get like, it was like one or a couple booster packs, and you'd open them, pick one card, and then pass the rest of the booster pack to the guy sitting to your right. And then, so basically you would build a deck in the draft based on like the cards that you were trying to like pick at it. So everybody kind of starts off equally, and you're just trying to deck build right there during the tournament. And then you play with that deck until the end of the tournament. And
that's tough.
Yeah, but it was fun because then it makes everybody equal from the start. And I had some pretty good strategies going into that. And it was fun because people would go for like the best colors or the best metas. And you're like, if everybody's going for that, then you're not going to get any good cards.
You're not going to get what you want.
So you pick the worst color and you get all the best cards for that color. And then
good strategy.
Yeah, which then you don't come away with necessarily cards you might want, but if you win the tournament, you get to pick from really high-end cards in the prize pool. So I would get the prize pool cards, and those were like legit cards.
Nice.
Yeah, so I did a couple of those in college, and those were fun.
So what does it have to do with what you were going to talk about?
Oh yeah, there's a story here. Yeah. So Magic the Gathering is, as you might expect, a fantasy card game. There's dragons, wizards, knights, warriors, all that stuff. It's been around forever. It's like Lord of the Rings. It's just a staple of the fantasy world in some way. And there's a lot of lore kind of built into the cards and all the wizards and the way that the world works. The card game, I assume, I haven't been following it too closely, has been kind of losing some steam. It's a more complicated set of rules compared to, say, like some of the newer digital games like Hearthstone that are coming out. Where Hearthstone
it's not as approachable.
Hearthstone took Magic's formula and said, it's pretty hard to get into Magic. It's complicated. How can we give people almost the exact same experience, but just make it way easier? And they did. And I think it's hurting Magic in the long run is that they've kind of got an older game that built a lot of these rules that every other game is now taking from, but the other games are improving the rules. And so Magic feels old and difficult to get into. And so the bright minds over at their company are going, what can we do to reinvigorate this IP? I know. Why don't we get the Marvel universe into Magic the Gathering? And not just Marvel, other IPs too. Let's have a Lord of the Rings Magic the Gathering expansion. So they're going to call it Universe Beyond, and there's going to be it is the dumbest thing I've ever heard reading this.
It'll be really cool, and you just got to have an open mind.
The thing is Marvel Snap exists, a card game that is good. It's a digital card game, but it's solid and it's fun, and I play it sometimes on my phone. And is it
literally just going to be Magic the Gathering, but with just characters and cards from Marvel?
Yeah, if you want your wizards to team up with Spider-Man, they can now.
So what I've never understood, and you can correct me, if I wanted to play Magic the Gathering, someone comes in with their Marvel set, and I'm going to use Spider-Man to web your giant Hydra. Yeah. Like, do they mix? Do the expansions mix? Do you just play expansions separately? Like, how do they keep it all contained?
Yeah. I believe the majority of competitive Magic, don't quote me on this, is people playing with. So there's a base set, and then you can mix the base set with an expansion set. So the tournaments will be around the new expansions usually. Okay. And that keeps the game kind of more fresh and changing, right? So you don't just...
it's just the base and then the expansion. Not every expansion.
That, I believe, is the focus of most competitive Magic. But then there is also Everything Goes Magic, where you can mix all cards together, and that just gets zany because the combos are like you can win in a single turn or something.
Do they have like different base sets? Does that make sense? Because I feel like if you have the same base set for 20 years, they don't get stale.
They don't have different base sets. I believe they add to it sometimes, but also the rules will remove cards from it too. And so like a new tournament year, they'll be like, here's the cards that are allowed, here's the cards that aren't allowed. Because sometimes they determine that old base cards are too OP or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, anyway, I haven't played in a long time, so my knowledge is all like college.
No, that's fair.
Years knowledge, so it's probably different now. But anyway.
So basically what could happen is you could have Spider-Man going against a Hydra.
I think so. Yeah, because if you're mixing in base cards, you've got dragons and stuff.
And wizard. There's magic in Marvel, right? Why not, right? Doctor Strange.
Yeah. I'd watch a movie where Spider-Man has to fight a dragon. I'd get a bucket of popcorn for that. But
why not?
It sounds silly, but I don't know. This obviously the fan base is. I read an article about it, and they said mixed at best. They're like, this is about the best result you could have. I think some of the silver lining is that this is going to be kind of a test, and if it doesn't work, then that'll be the end of that. It's not like this is Magic forever, but I do think that the card game needs to figure something out. If this is what they're grasping at to try and make it more interesting, they got to come up with a better plan than that.
If it is to try to stem the flow, then it's just more. It sounds like a Band-Aid fix than anything else.
Yeah, and I don't know. Maybe the franchise is doing okay, and this was just some executive's terrible idea or something. They saw Fortnite and they're like, Fortnite's doing it.
I was literally just gonna say the Fortniteification of every single genre. Oh, they have. Yeah. They've got all these cross references. Why don't we bring in other games and genres?
You know what this is it's like Call of Duty was the biggest thing ever, and every other game was like, we need to do what COD is doing, and then every FPS and every game like that was just copying COD-ification, and now Fortnite is the biggest game ever, and now every game is Fortniteifying their game and injecting the MCU into it, and you're just like...
You see they're adding shoes now into Fortnite.
Shoes. Oh, is like a cosmetic.
Nike shoes.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so they're literally going to monetize
That's
shoes
just money.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
somebody said that over...
It's going to sell.
I know. As soon as you said that, I'm like, that's money right there, dude. That's so much money. I mean, because you've already got the shoe market, right? People care so much about their shoes and collect shoes and all that. And you're like, now put it in Fortnite? Yeah, it's going to be insane.
And then you can put it on top of everything else that there is, in the game.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Though I gotta sympathize with their developers and their artists trying to now put those shoes on every single avatar and character that they have in the game has got to be a nightmare.
Yeah, if they have, because they have like fish guys in that might have like weird fish feet or something, it's like...
Yep.
Yeah, there's some tricks around it. I can see some tricks.
I'm sure they'll figure it out. They got billions of dollars. They'll work it through.
I actually know how now that I got game dev brain, Matt, I know exactly how you could do it pretty easily. So like,
okay, all right.
As long as the ankle size or approximate leg width is fairly similar on most characters, which you would probably want it to be for hitbox reasons.
Right.
Even if you have a weird funky floppy foot or something like that, you can basically just create a material now that just hides the texture up to the ankle point, and then you just slap a shoe model on top of that. So you can just create like a Z-plane texture that just goes invisible. Like there.
I'll take your word for it.
Solved it.
Look at this. Level Cap's a dev now. He knows everything. Easy.
Boom. Yeah. If you got any questions about, games or anything, Matt, just ask me. I'll tell you what's going on. So yeah, that's one of my other childhood franchises going up in smoke.
Bump the brakes, you know.
Maybe not completely. I'm just still sore about, Star Wars and stuff like that. I'm just like, they killed my baby.
Baby.
In more entertaining but also kind of disappointing news, Ubisoft is doing cool stuff as they normally do. They remember when you remember when they tried to launch?
Wait, Level Cap.
Well, I know people don't really know a lot about how your finances and stuff, Matt, but you've put it all into NFTs, which
their NFT game. I forgot. Yeah.
Yeah, I recommended not to do it, but you were all for it.
I just felt the vibe.
Ubisoft launched a new NFT game called Champion Tactics Grimoire Chronicles. It's too long of a name.
Say that again?
Champions Tactics Grimoire Chronicles. I can barely say the name.
That's a name.
Yeah.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah, you haven't played CTGC? CTGC? So, dumb name. Honestly, I watched the trailer for it and I was like, that's kind of cool because they're taking those little Warhammer figurines that you would paint, and they look just like that, and the visuals of them look cool, and you collect them and then mint new ones and then fight them. I'm like, you know what? I can see the appeal that I get that collectability stuff, but then it's all on a blockchain, and you have to, I think the cheapest hero is around $7, which is not cheap. And then of course the most expensive ones are $60,000. And I mean, they're not setting the prices. Users are setting the prices.
Yes, they are.
Right. Well,
yes, they are.
They're setting up the market, and then Ubisoft takes 6% transaction fee on everything. So the characters selling back and forth and trading, they get 6% on every single one of those. And so they didn't market the game heavily because I think they knew they were going to get
know about it.
Yeah, they were going to get blasted, right? Like they knew they were going to get blasted, so they just kind of snuck it out, and they're like, nobody noticed, but we have an NFT game here that is clearly designed to rake in the cash.
If no one knows about it, then it's going to not rake any cash. So maybe they're hoping like a couple of whales will just show up and do what whales do.
I think they should have just marketed it, because if you made the game, just market the damn game. Like people have already we already know what
they
you
have
are.
Their
Ubisoft.
opinion on NFTs. If no one knows about it, like I just said, then no one knows about it.
Yeah. So they're still trying to get in on that, and I guess there are some big NFT games like Axiom. Is that one? I think so. I don't know. I know there's ones that people play, but I mean, it's kind of legalized gambling basically, where you're just
because I mean, and they're the ones who hold all the cards, right? Because you said that the players are the ones that are setting these prices, but it's only because these items are incredibly rare. One of the problems I have with Counter-Strike's entire loot box system is like, oh, that Dragonov or that that really rare skin. It's like, well, they're not pricing it at that. That's what the players are pricing at it, only because it's got a 0.011% chance of like dropping. Yeah. That's why it's so expensive. Like they're causing the scarcity.
Yeah. I'm not angry at Counter-Strike for doing that, because like I'm an old school Diablo fan, and I love the idea of items that are so stinking rare that you may never get them your entire time playing the game. And that makes it cool to see a player who has the item. The problem with that is that we figured out how to transfer items between characters, and all of a sudden this massive economy sprawls up around it, and you're like, oh shit, people are selling gear online for hundreds and hundreds of dollars. So that's the downside to it, even if you want that cool thing where you can have uber rare gear.
Idea of it, I agree with you.
Yeah. So
the practice is that it's basically gambling, but in video game form.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't think Valve do they take a cut of what's happening? Take a cut. Oh, yeah. Now they do. Yeah, before...
they've taken a cut the entire time.
Well, I thought they were doing it all on third-party websites. And then they transfer the items between accounts.
Ooh, that I don't know.
Yeah, I believe that's how it's been done for the most part.
Through their marketplace.
Well, like the marketplace to buy the keys for the boxes, but then the selling of the items.
You can sell the item on the marketplace as well.
Now you can. Yeah. I don't know if you could always. I don't know, man. I haven't been following it.
It's all right. I don't follow it as well either.
It gets crazy. Yeah. And
we're probably speaking from a point of ignorance here, but.
Yeah. Yeah. What? You don't gamble Counter-Strike skins, Matt?
I don't. No.
You didn't take that? Oh my God. I remember when they were offering the ad deals to promote the CSGO skin gambling stuff, and like, I didn't take it, but I mean, because I'm like morally against it, because you're encouraging kids to gamble, basically. But you could see how much money was in it, because the ad deals that they're offering was bananas. Just insane. I was like, that's more money than like 10 ads together. Like, it's insanity. So
I got a couple of ad offers for some unsavory things that I just didn't agree with morally, and when I got the number, I'm like, I was frustrated and annoyed that
you wish you never got never knew about it, because now you have to sleep with this like, damn, that money, I could have used that money, that would have changed some things for me. But yeah, dang it, morals,
damn morals.
Yeah. So anyway, don't know what's going to happen to this NFT thing. Ubisoft is they're about to get bought, man. That's what it feels like.
I'm worried. I don't even know who would pick them up.
Well, I mean, Tencent seems to be the top expected company, but everybody's...
Can't be Microsoft. There's no way.
I mean, we don't know,
man.
There's
no way they could get them.
Yeah, Microsoft would have to split into like two businesses. There'd be like Microsoft Games and then Microsoft, and they'd have to just, even then, Microsoft Games might dominate too much of the market. But then you could argue, if all the IPs from Ubisoft were in the gutter, then what are they buying exactly? They're just buying some names at that point and not market share. But
true, but I don't think Ubisoft products have gotten that far down, right? I think if a big Assassin's Creed game or a big whatever game came out, like a Splinter Cell, people would be excited for it, even though it has been forever, and even though they've been really inconsistent.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, what have you been playing, Matt?
So I played Monster Hunter Wilds.
Yeah.
And my God, is it peak level cap?
Yeah. I never got into the Monster Hunter games. Like, it's like Pokemon, but like scary, right?
If by Pokemon you mean you wield massive giant weapons and then go to war against these juggernaut giant Titan-like creatures, then yeah, it's just like Pokemon.
Okay.
Yeah. So the beta was only a couple of days, and it only had 4 monsters that you could hunt. So it was very limited. There was one that was basically just like the tutorial monster. It kind of licks you and you just smack it around, and it just kind of gets you comfortable with the controls and everything. And the other 3 were
it licks you, it gets you nice and comfortable.
Nice and comfortable with the control. I
didn't know where you were going with that at first.
It actually has a giant tongue, so it does actually lick you. But I spent 6 hours playing just the beta, fighting 4 monsters, because I kept experimenting with all the different weapons. And I played Worlds, loved it, but I wasn't very good at it. And so I wasn't very good at this either, but I was like slowly learning the new mechanics that they've been introducing. And I had the thought, I was like, it's weird playing 2025's Game of the Year in 2024, because it has the potential to be Game of the Year next year if they can follow through.
Holy smokes.
The thing, though, is can they improve the optimization and make it look better? Because when I played it, I was 3080 Ti, 5950X CPU, and I was getting 45 FPS at times, like consistently 45 FPS.
Playing at 1440 resolution?
1440 medium settings with frame generation.
That's not good. That's really bad. That's not with good. Frame gen? Jeez.
Yeah. So I think I was on performance or balanced, and
you're saying the graphics aren't that good?
And the graphics, I think it was because with the frame gen on, it made everything look kind of muddy and pixely, and it was not. Monster Hunter World, from what I played, looks significantly better because everything was tight, right? It didn't have that weird like pixely tessellation or whatever it's called. Every time you like moved around and everything.
Is it an Unreal 5 game?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
What's it? Monster Hunter what?
Monster Hunter Wilds.
Game engine. Let's see what they're using. The RE might be using their engine. I think it's their own engine.
Which is pretty, from what I remember, is a really reliable engine.
Yeah.
So hopefully they can tighten it up. Because if they can, and when you see the gameplay that they've shown in trailers, the scenery looks stunning. Like the game looks stunning, but then when I played it, a sandstorm rolled in and it just made everything look like mud, right?
Okay, and well, at least it's a beta, right? So it is a beta. Away. 4 months, okay.
Yeah, 4 months away.
That's not nothing. That should be time.
And this is probably a later build as well. So let's give it 5 months of trying to optimize it. So they have time. And I really hope that they can hash it out and get it working.
Yeah, because you're saying it's Game of the Year if they can.
Potentially, yeah. It is, dude. Like, the dual blades, so they introduced a new system where if you hit a monster in the same area repeatedly, it creates a wound. Yeah. And then every single one of the weapons in the game, there's like 14 of them, all have a unique thing that they can interact with that wound. So what you do with the dual blades is that you attach yourself with basically a zip line, you whip around to the front of it, and then you remember Levi from Attack on Titan or just Attack on Titan in general?
I mean, I remember their techniques for taking down Titans.
So you straight up just like spin to win through the entire monster, just dealing damage all along like the side. It's amazing.
That sounds awesome.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of shields in the game where you can play more defensively. Like the sword and shield and like the lance, or does the lance have it? Lance has it as well. Yes. Sorry, I'm still kind of a noob when it comes to this. And you can get into a little bit of a conflict with it, where if you parry enough of its attacks, you will block the mouth with your shield and stab repeatedly. And then if you win and you do it fast enough, it'll recoil back, which I've never had that mechanic either. So there's so many cool intricacies and details that they have that is just amazing. They're like, the combat is at another level.
I will say, as somebody who is not a huge, I don't know, what genre of game would you call it, where it's more of a reaction timing adventure game or something?
I don't know what I would classify it as. It really is like its own thing, right? Like there's been games that have tried to do something similar too, and they're Monster Hunter games, right? I don't know what like the actual genre would be classified
but anyway,
as.
I guess games, like I don't normally go for games that are timing fighting style games as much. You know, like Zelda's as close as I get to that genre, I guess. But it is cool. From someone on the outside, I'm impressed by how much they're able to evolve the fighting mechanics, because in other game genres, we're like, well, we need crazy physics to evolve the genre. We need insane graphics. And like those games, they're literally just evolving the core mechanics in cool ways. And that's exciting to see, you know, because the shooter hasn't evolved in any sort of interesting way in like decades, you know. And these guys are evolving their genre with cool new fight mechanics. And you're like, that's dope. I like that. That's fun.
And they still have like environmental things that you can interact with. Like if a monster climbs up a wall or like this kind of overhang, you can just hit the pillar and it falls down, it crumbles, and it falls to the ground. They've got unique animations for monsters who will get into a territorial dispute and they'll attack each other. There's like a snake-like one that will wrap itself around the other monster, and it's just like,
whoa,
yeah, it's sick. Like,
that's cool, man.
It makes you feel like you're living in the world and not just interacting with a monster, like in a video game, right?
That's huge. Any game that can make you forget that you're dealing with game mechanics, you know, like that goes a long way. I love it when games shoot for that as their goal. Very hard to do, but incredible when they pull it off.
So I'm very excited for Monster Hunter Wilds. Only complaint is the visuals and the optimization. I trust that they'll be able to get it to work, but slightly worried in that respect.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you say game of the year, because I played a game that also it's a game of this year. It is a game that came out this year. Remember a couple podcasts ago, we were talking about Doom that was completely AI generated, where it was the Doom game, but an AI model was generating 20 frames per second on the fly, and then you would go around and try and play Doom AI, basically. Yeah. So there's a new game called Oasis, and it's basically Minecraft AI. And you can play it on a web browser. So rather than Doom AI being this gate-kept thing that they're just showing a video of, this is one that you can log on and play now on your browser. And it's free, doesn't cost anything, and it's Minecraft. And so I logged on to play it because I was like, whoa, first AI game that you can just click a button and start playing. It is like being on a lot of mushrooms. It is like, it is a fever dream, because you get in and you look at a really low res kind of, it's like a little square about this big on your screen. Because I assume it can't render out a full resolution thing in the amount of time. They have server fees and stuff like that. It's low resolution, low frame rate, and you're like, okay, fine, I'll deal with that. It's still Minecraft. And you look around and it kind of just looks like a little bit more of a pixelated Minecraft, if that even makes sense. And you know, you hit blocks and they disappear, but the world's kind of wavy a little bit. It's kind of moving like you're under the ocean and you're watching the seagrass kind of move around a little bit. And you'll notice as you turn and you say, look to the left and then look back to the right, the world is not the same anymore.
That is trippy.
It is very trippy. It feels like a nightmare, basically. So you're playing it and you're like, okay, I'll just look over there, and you look back and nothing's the same anymore. And you're like,
that actually sounds like a nightmare. Like, legitimately.
Yeah. So it's like some sort of bad drug-induced gaming experience. But it was interesting. But calling it a game is generous.
It sounds like you just walk around.
Yeah, because
you can't interact with anything. If nothing's stable, then there's no play. You can't put down a building. You can just be gone.
Yeah, from my understanding, the Doom one did have a system for remembering stuff. And so I assume they could upgrade this to have a system where once it generates the topography, it would then potentially remember it somehow.
Yeah.
But this one doesn't have that system yet. It's not as impressive as the Doom one. But it is playable by people. If you want to go play a fully AI-generated game, you can do it. It's very funny because the way they like market this, and this kind of stuff just grinds my gears, because you're just like, I can see how you're just trying to get that venture capitalist money for your dumb little company. Is like, they're like 70% of internet traffic is through video form. Like, what if we could generate unlimited videos, blah 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 blah, we'll capture all that, you know. And you're like, okay, I see that you're trying to get some dumb venture capitalists to like give you all their money to like build out your game. Because playing it, I'm like, I didn't want to play it for more than 5 minutes before I was like, this is a nightmare. Like, I don't feel good right now.
Yeah, it sounds terrible.
Yeah, it was, and it's far from being anything that anybody would want to play. Like, I can't think about a path forward.
How did you even find this?
It's in the news. I don't know. It's the news. Do you open the news, Matt?
I mean, I do. I guess I just don't subscribe to the AI newsletter.
I mean, it's only the forefront of all humanity, Matt. I thought you would be a little more plugged into it.
I guess that's true. Yeah. Yeah. When our AR overlords show up.
Yeah.
Or are created.
I have been following those AR glasses that you said AR overlords. But
did I say AR?
I thought you said AR.
I probably did. Let's be real.
And I've been thinking, those AR glasses, they look funky in terms of like big and clunky, but yeah, I keep seeing people using them. I'm like, dang it, these things are probably going to be like, these are going to be the new phones someday.
They might be. Yeah. No, I think people will be wearing glasses for that stuff. Yeah. It'll just be more compact. It'll look hopefully more like this.
Yeah. I'm both excited and terrified because, like we talked about previously, is they have done experiments in the past where people wear wearable computers, and they find for long periods of time, and they find that their brains stop doing the necessary things that the computers take over for, like remembering people's names,
someone's name,
or faces, like crazy stuff like that. Yeah.
Oh God, that would be creepy if you were like, you met someone over and over and over again, and then you took your glasses off, and then you meet them, and your brain just cannot. They're just like,
wouldn't that be wild?
I don't know who you are.
Yeah,
that would be creepy.
Yeah. Now I don't know if that is a thing that would happen, but it's like, it sounds like a Black Mirror type episode.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Black Mirror.
Yeah. So maybe they have an episode on that, but that would be a good one where they're like showing the like horror side of augmented reality and people's brains just not working in the way that they normally would because we've offloaded all of that to computer.
Yeah.
Good times ahead, Matt. Hopefully it gets better before it gets worse.
It could, give us more time to think about other things, like TikTok videos.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
That's what the human brain needs. You know what we need, Matt? We need more digital interaction and stimulation. That's what not enough people are talking about this.
Veins.
Yeah, we just need full on digital immersion all the time.
When I go to sleep, I want to dream in TikTok.
Yeah. Dream.
Do you have a TikTok account? I don't.
I do, but I've logged into it like a handful of times. The first time I logged into TikTok, the very first time, the first video that popped up was a girl twerking, and I was like, touche, TikTok, touche.
You know why I'm here.
Yeah. I was like, I see why this platform's doing so well.
Well done.
Yeah, they're like, get him right away. Twerking. Throw our best twerking video at him immediately.
And you went back ever since.
Yeah. No, and now I can't stop looking at TikTok. My feed, my feed, whatever it is amazing. Yeah. What do you think, Matt? Are we getting Firestorm 2.0 in the near future?
I saw your video and I watched it, and I was like, kind of grasping at straws a little bit, but there were some similarities and there were some references. So
in my defense, the only reason why you're saying I'm grasping at straws is because DICE so rarely delivers on all of their Easter eggs.
Yeah.
Do you remember like when they teased a 2142 robot in Battlefield 3? It was like there was like a little hover drone from 2142 in one of the Battlefield 3 maps. And it was like a full-on thing, and it was like flying around. I'm like, oh, well, this is an Easter egg for 2142
or for the next game. Yeah.
And then obviously nothing happened, but they do that crap all the time. And so you're like, oh, now your Easter eggs mean nothing because you delivered nothing on them. So,
or it also could have just been a fun Easter egg, not trying to hint at anything, and the circle could have just be like a cultist circle.
Yeah, but it's Halloween. The logo is only from the Firestorm world, and the logo is part of the Firestorm lore. So it's the team that is supposedly responsible for creating the Firestorm, and it's located in a map with lots of little fire circles, and maybe it's sort of demonic related, who knows, but
I 100% see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I just don't know if it's... I would not be surprised if we got a battle royale in the next Battlefield. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know. I don't really care for it. I'd probably play it a little bit.
You're not super excited about the next Battle Royale, Matt. You're not like, oh my God.
I think of playing like Apex Legends or Warzone, and I just get exhausted at the mere thought of like dropping in, probably getting taken out by the sweatiest players, and then loading up another match, and then doing it all over again, just for the hopes that I survive the first 10 minutes to actually have like a normal game where I run around for another 20 minutes, not seeing anyone, and then dying to a random person in a bush.
Yeah. That's when that's what always put me off of the Royales, is like, even though I put hundreds of hours into PUBG when it first came out, as most people did, because it was such a crazy, wild experience, just playing 20 minutes, going into a tiny little house, and you loot the whole thing, and you go, oh, you know what, I didn't check the bathroom. Go into the bathroom, and some dude with a shotgun's there and just blows you away, and you're like,
what's up, asshole?
Yeah, and you're just like, oh, right, okay. I guess I have to be like cracked out of my mind all the time,
24/7,
to survive in this game. And it's just not a feeling that I want to try and keep up for 30 minutes of exploration.
Yep, that's exactly my same thought. It's just too much tension for me.
Yeah, it's nice to have downtime and then tense moments, but if you have that downtime in some of these hardcore battle royales, you're like, oh, you're dead now. Sorry, like you didn't anticipate the dude with the shotgun behind the bathroom curtain.
Yeah. So like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if they do it. I would also not be surprised if they try another extraction shooter aspect, because there was that hint from some interview. You can correct me because I'm sure you remember this, where they said, we want to have tons of different ways for people to interact with Battlefield so that they don't feel the need to go and, to another game. So it's like they're doing something more than just the normal Battlefield experience.
And Tom Henderson has leaked that there's going to be a Royale free standalone type thing, which, I mean, anybody could predict, but his rumors have been pretty spot on for the past couple of years regarding Battlefield. So, I mean, I would assume they're doing this. It seems like the logical thing to do. They're more or less just going to copy what Call of Duty is doing in many of those regards, I'd imagine. But if they did make a free-to-play Royale experience, I think Firestorm 2.0 is a pretty safe bet, because the formula did work. Most people are in agreement that Firestorm was a really cool Royale. It's one of my favorites in terms of concept, where having destructible buildings fixed one of my least favorite things from, like, say, PUBG or something, where you could just hide at the top of stairs and there's no other way to get up, and so you could just camp those stairs. Really hard to push somebody on stairs, and then that's it. And then in Firestorm, you're like, what if I just blow up the whole building with an artillery strike, or break a hole in the back wall and flank them? And there's all these cool things, and I was like, this is so much better. and then you could hide in a building, and then the firestorm would come and level the whole building. And so you're like,
it was cool.
Yeah, good luck hiding in that building, buddy. So it was pretty cool. Like, they really fixed a lot of my least favorite kind of campy, cheesy mechanics in a normal Royale game. Not perfect. The looting was really bad, and then they also had the bush camping in it was insane. You could lay down in a bush and nobody could see you, but you could see them.
That was more of a Battlefield 5 problem, just in general.
Sure.
The visibility in Battlefield 5 was pretty rough until they made some changes.
Yeah, but at least in BF5, you just respawn and you're like, I'm going to kill that guy that was in the bush over there now, because screw him. But in this, you're done, right? So the bush camping was problematic. Not a perfect experience, but one of the more innovative Royales that I had played, and it was undercooked and had all those paywall problems and other issues with it. So that free-to-play, I see a lot of people arguing that Firestorm 1 made free-to-play now would be a successful game versus, they'd have to fix the looting and they'd have to create seasonal crap and unlocks and rewards and whatever. But
they'd have to put a lot of work into it to make it, I think, viable. But I do think people would go back and play it. I just don't know how many.
Yeah, it's hard because the market's been saturated. This is classic DICE's missing the window. They're always like a year behind. In this case, they're like so many years behind.
They're like a decade behind almost at this point.
They're just playing catch up. They don't have enough confident people over there to like innovate and be like, this idea will work and we'll do it before anybody else. They're like, no, let's just copy what other people do a couple of years later. And you're like, oh, I guess you can kind of keep a franchise alive with that mentality, but it's pretty unexciting for players.
Yeah. I mean, Fortnite literally did that and it became the biggest franchise in the world. So it's not like it's impossible.
I mean, Blizzard's been doing that. That's been their MO for years, which is, hey, let's take the genre that somebody else invented and just make it way better. And it's worked out for them. But, you got to make it way better. DICE did not make the Royale way better. They're like, let's innovate, but also just like, to screw up our production, whatever, and not finish this at all.
Yeah.
Good times.
I'm excited for the actual Battlefield mode. If they have a Battle Royale, I'll try it. But it's not like the thing that I'm like, oh, baby.
Sure.
I can't wait.
Yep. The next Battlefield game is going to be very interesting for many reasons. And one of the main ones is that genre is just, it ain't what it used to be because it's just had to take a backseat compared to all the other Royales and FPS experiences that are out there now that have become the more popular games. Like Battlefield is no longer one of the most popular games. It's like they got to figure out how to cohabitate now, and how do they exist? How do they fit into this crazy new market? And they still haven't figured it out, so that'll be an interesting thing to see with the next game.
Fingers crossed.
I know. Yep. I mean, I love Battlefield. I want it to be around forever. So EA's got to be smart to keep it around. They got to evolve it intelligently.
Agreed.
So, Payday 3 1 year later.
Yeah, so I did a sponsored deal with them. Okay. So, full disclosure.
I was going to ask you, I was like, what brought you back to Payday?
A lot of people, huge ad campaign right now going on. I was like, oh my God, I'm not the only one. There's all these big content creators going back and playing Payday. And I think it's because they wanted to put their best foot forward. And they're like, we want to advertise and show off what we've done and improved. And the game is definitely much better than it was at launch. They have their year one pass has like 4 heists. They've added in free heists along the way. So there's a lot more variety and a lot more things to experience. There was one in particular where you go down a street, and it was my favorite because it's literally just a street with a bunch of jewelry shops everywhere. And you can go to like the small shops and go to the big ones, right? You can do it all at once. You can leave early. So it was felt much more open-ended. And I just love the dynamic of that. I just thought that was really interesting. And I enjoyed my time with it, though I did experience crashes and server disconnects, and I'm like, yikes, after a year and you guys are still having some server issues.
Were you playing a beta version of it?
No, it was the full thing. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's not good.
So I was like, man, like I feel for the devs, because like that sucks. Like we had a moment where the police just stopped searching. They literally just all stood in one spot and they never moved. Every single one of them on the map was just anchored to a spot. And like, that's not good.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
And it happened not once, but twice on the same map. So we just gave up on that map. So yeah, it was unfortunate, but other than those issues, it was enjoyable. I love the idea of Payday. I love, systematically going around a map and trying to figure out the puzzle to steal while stealthed.
Yeah.
And then if things go poorly, you go in and it becomes a horde shooter, right?
Yeah.
And it's a fun concept, and it's definitely better.
When it's done right, it's fantastic. And especially when you're playing with friends and you're like coordinating, you're the camera guy, you get the jewelry, you take out the security guards or whatever. And everybody has their role and you have to time it right. And when you get the timing wrong, it becomes like this damage mitigation game where you're just like, okay, let's see what we can get away with before like the cops come. And so you have to switch into like a crazy plan B, and it feels like a real heist, right? Where you're like, it's going well, it's going wrong. Like we got to figure, or a movie heist, I should say. Yeah. Not that I know what a real heist is like. Would you like to inform everyone of your? Well, in my heisting days, we were much better organized. No. So it feels like a real movie heist, and it's cool. But yeah, there was a lot of problems with the original game. So it would be nice. I hope it does well, because obviously Payday 2 became kind of legendary with the amount of DLC.
It still has so many people playing too. It's wild.
Yeah. And we talked about this a little bit when they launched, which was like, how do you beat a game that's been adding content to it for years and years and years? It's almost impossible, because you're trying to say, hey, let's compete with this game that we just made with 3 dev years versus a game that we've been working on for like 10 years, that game came out in 2013 and it still has 13,000 average concurrent players right now. Yeah. It's wild. I don't know how they did it. I mean, like, you look at it and you go, maybe they should have just tried to like update the original or something, like
just a graphical overhaul of everything.
Like a graphics remaster or something.
And they are bringing in old maps from Payday 2 into this, so they are doing that. But it is at a slow pace. It's been an entire year. Yeah. So, well, I enjoyed my time. I think it's a much better game, but as I said, I did come across some problems, unfortunately, even during the limited time that I played for like 6 hours. Yeah, and I will say, like, it's interesting. This is so like big studio dev culture, but I did a Payday sponsored event when the whole thing first launched, and I remember you telling me about that. You can see the amount of money that these sponsor campaigns spend on just like. They want to make it memorable. Yeah, crazy venue, crazy money spent. I was talking to some of the like marketing people there, and like you're just like, all this money is being spent. Like, it was clearly millions of dollars on renting things out and hiring teams of people and all this stuff. And then I played the game, and like the capture setup was bugged and didn't have sound, and the game was buggy, and there's all kinds of problems, and you're just looking at it and you're like, this is so big production game like level mess ups where they're just putting the money in the wrong spot, the game's getting rushed, that doesn't have the right amount of time in development, and they're just like, now just throw tons of money at marketing, and you're like, okay. I do hope that game comes around, because I mean, Payday's a cool franchise and it deserves to have a good future. But it's just got its work cut out for it, it sounds like, in terms of overcoming its predecessor, essentially. Yeah. I wish them the best too. Yep. They'll get there one day. I mean, if they still got that Payday 2 money coming in, they can just put it into Payday 3 and eventually it'll be as good. Churning. And they'll get their decade-long's worth of Payday 3 content from it. Yeah. So what else you been up to? game wise, that's about it. I played some Call of Duty. I watched season. If you want to talk about some shows, I watched all of season 3 of Legends of Vox Machina, the Critical Role show, and season 3 was spectacular. Yeah. Starts off way too fast. I got to admit, like it's really hard for them to condense, hundreds of hours worth of content. Oh, are we still here? I may have disconnected. We good? You hear me?
I hear you. Do you hear me?
Okay, cool. Because like everything just shut down on my end. So they have to condense hundreds of hours of like their show into like, a season.
Yeah.
And that is got to be difficult. And so like the first 3 episodes felt very, very fast, right? And then once they started getting into the meat of what the story was, I thought it really took off. I thought it was the animation quality, this like the relationships of everything, very relationship heavy this time around, which I was surprised by. But yeah, it was fantastic. I absolutely loved it.
Awesome, dude. Yeah. Let's see. Did I talk about Alien Romulus already?
You did, yeah.
I did. Okay. Oh man, that movie is so good. I also watched during my puzzle building phase. Put on some stand-up comedy, and there's this one guy that is just relentlessly impressive. I mean, everybody's heard of him because he's been around forever, and he gets a lot of flack because he makes bad movies and great movies. It's Adam Sandler.
He had a stand-up? Okay, cool.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever seen his stand-up, but his stand-up has always been fantastic. It's weird because he makes comedy movies that I can't watch. I'll sit down and I'm like 5 minutes into it. I'm like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen.
Trash, yeah.
And I have to turn it off. And I'm like, what? How did this come from the mind of a great comedian? But his stand-up is truly incredible. His latest one, I think, came out a couple of weeks ago or something. And he's a musician. He writes songs. They're all very funny. He's
a talented guy.
Yeah, you're just watching it and you're like, some people just have too much talent. You're like, how'd you get all this talent?
Yeah.
Again, the movie's inexplainable.
He basically, like the Goofy movies, he basically just hires all of his friends. They get millions of dollars just to go make a funny movie and just have fun with it. Like it sounds like a good deal for them.
Yeah, I think they make a ton of money in the foreign markets and stuff like that because the jokes are really simple, where if English is like your second language or something like that, you probably get them or whatever. But I saw a whole video breaking down why his movies are like massive money makers and why it makes so much sense. And like,
so they sell really well in other countries,
and they work
the foreign
huge
market.
Product placement and ad deals. Like there's like some movies where like the whole joke revolves around an airline terminal and they're just constantly promoting an airline. They're like, do you see how like insane this product placement is? Like it's just like 20 minutes of product placement.
That's wild.
Yeah. So like that part of his career and talent is weird, but then he makes these incredible like dramatic movies with like uncut gems. And there's another really good one he did with where he's like a talent scout for a scout for a basketball team. And it's about like scouting out this new player. And that one was really good too. Like he just does these kind of serious drama roles that and just knocks him out of the park.
Whoa. Is my internet sucking?
Are we okay?
On? Yeah, I just disconnected. What's going on, Discord?
It could be me.
Yeah, because I'm not live right now, so I can't see if I have dropped frames. Doesn't look like you're dropping
Okay,
frames.
I see you on my side okay, but it's possible it's me. I did get my my neighbor cut my fiber cable, so I'm working with new spotty fiber or something. I don't know. I'm beta testing their new fiber drop for them. Yeah, no, Stream says they can hear us both okay, so I think we're good.
All right. I'll keep my fingers crossed that it's. I hope it's not me. I don't want it to be me. No offense.
Yeah. Anyway, I highly recommend the Adam Sandler stand-up if you like. I like stand-up while I'm working on something. It's such a great like thing to put up on the side. A lot of good comedians out there.
Nice.
Yeah, that's what I've been up to. And of course, pinball.
You gonna make that video?
I'm Man, my journey with this pinball machine has been wild. So the guy kind of sold me on the next version of their machine, which was the 8.0. So I was like, cool, I'll wait and get the 8.0 version. Yeah. And it's supposed to come with their 3.0 software or whatever. It's this big upgrade to their software. Cool. Get the machine, play it, messing around. Not seeing all the features he was talking about, trying to load up new tables, download. I'm practicing adding new tables to the machine, which is a whole process. And I'll load them up and they'll be like, sorry, your software is out of date. And I look at the software. I'm like, this software is over 1.5 years old. And then I figure out that I'm not running the 3.0 software. And so they sort of gave me the new machine, but it's running on the old software.
Without the old
because
stuff.
The new software isn't done yet. So I guess they were planning to send me the new drive at some point, and they just didn't tell me. So I'm just all over the map with this thing. So I'm like, okay, well, it doesn't make sense for me to make a review on this until I get the full machine.
Right.
With the features. That said, I have been just enjoying playing pinball on it and figuring out my favorite tables. Cactus Canyon, solid table. Attack from Mars, classic, and also still one of my favorite. It is one of the most famous pinball tables, and it's fantastic. I want to download some of the newer tables. Also, Star Trek. So Star Trek limited edition table is amazing, or it's like Star Trek Anniversary limited edition, something like that. I don't know. Great table, really good table. Love it. Just figuring out all my favorite tables and stuff. It's fun getting into it, and families having tournaments and stuff and high scores.
Oh, cool! Making a little game of it. I like it.
It's cool. I like it a lot. But yeah, too much time spent on the troubleshooting side of that thing.
That'd be a headache.
Yeah, I finally fixed my last issue with it, which was like replacing a bunch of software modules and crap, and I got it working, and then I find out that I'm not even on the latest thing, and I'm gonna get a whole new hard drive at some point anyway. I'm like, cool, I'm glad I spent like a month troubleshooting all the software problems on this.
Right.
Yeah. So
and hopefully when they send that, it's not gonna have its own issues.
Yeah. No, it's I wouldn't recommend the product to somebody who doesn't want to tinker, basically.
It's bizarre because you're paying a premium for it, and you'd think that this premium would come with consistency.
It's a weird thing because it's like they're sort of taking themselves off the hook for the software because the software is open source, and they're kind of selling the software with the product, but they're like, hey, we can't legally sell the software, so it's not really our product, so it's not, we're not selling the software, it just comes as an option, and you're kind of responsible for the software. And I'm like, it's this weird gray area of like, the hardware is fantastic, and you're kind of in charge of making sure that the software doesn't explode. And it's like, there's a lot of junk in there to get it all running because you're connecting motors and flashing lights and like 3 monitors that are all different display resolutions and require different things. And they're all, and then volume knobs and tons of switches and like circuit boards and things that can adjust accelerometers that can tell the angle of the table, and that's all running off of like different software. So so you're like, cool, so there's like 1,000 things that all have to be working perfectly or the machine explodes. And some of them got out of whack for me, and I had to dig into it and figure out how to fix it. So
damn.
Yeah, but I think that's just kind of, so far so good. Haven't had any errors.
I would be annoyed. I'd be like, I didn't pay for this. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. So I will be making a full video once I get the final features, and I will be disclosing all of the journey that I've had on the machine. I am still loving it. It's fun. But yeah, more time spent on troubleshooting than I would have liked.
Than you would have liked. Yeah.
Yeah. At least you can open it up and troubleshoot it. That's true, says Atif in our comments. You can open up the whole... It is cool opening it. You open it and you're like, check this out. And like there's 3 amplifiers. It's like opening up a
space station.
Yeah, there's 3 amplifiers and like 1,000 cables, like beautifully wired into like these little cable grooves in the side, and like motors everywhere and lights and like circuit boards all over the place. And you're like, what is this? It looks like I'm, doing maintenance on the space shuttle or something. It just doesn't make any sense. It is cool, but
nice.
Yeah. Well, shall we wrap up the old Potteroonie there?
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll let people know that you guys are enjoying the podcast and you want to watch us live, which we normally have a regular schedule, and some people have shown up to this one because we're recording at 5 a.m., but we record on Mondays, and you can drop by and watch us live if you subscribe to our Patreon, which is linked in the podcast description. It helps us out. And we also do a little post-podcast show after the live recording where we talk about cool stuff, and I bore Matt with F1 news and stuff like that. And so, yeah, check us out there. Otherwise, Matt is going to give you some very important life advice that is not derivative of video game information.
Not derivative?
Oh, I mean, or maybe it is. I don't know.
So this week is very stressful for a lot of people, for particular reasons. So all I can say is take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. Just take a deep breath, relax. We'll get through whatever we get through, You feel me? Hang in there.
We'll all be here tomorrow and the next day, probably.
I hope so.
You're welcome, everybody. You're welcome for your weekly de-stressor. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Take care.